What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 11 of the Triple Option Talk. Now, you may look around and notice, where's Jake? Well, Jake, he had some extra work to take care of. Life happens, life gets in the way. But, whether it's just me, Chase, or Jake, it's always going to be Triple Option Talk. And there's always going to be college football to talk about. 2 weeks ago, Jake had a pickup for Chase and I slack when we were visiting Alabama. So we're going to pick up for Jake this week, because there's so much to get into. Last weekend was another weekend full of bangers, heartbreaks, and pure excitement. If there's any other Lost Florida State fans out there like Chase and I, and Jake included, you know what week it is? It's Miami hate week, baby. We might be 1-6, but it's always a great week to hate on Miami. And for those who also may have been, not really pay attention to the Tallahassee side of things, you might know that we were fooled. We thought the curse was broken. Barstool FSU posted a video of a Florida State student at a park picking up dog poop off the ground, taking a bite of it. Turns out that was fake. But then a couple days later, somebody actually did it in front of the unconquered statue right outside of Doak. So, maybe the curse is broken. We're about to find out in the Hard Rock Stadium. But Chase, to get this episode started, to recap some games from last week, the third most watched game in college football last Saturday took place in the Elville. What went down in Louisville?
Well, it was a very intriguing matchup. If you remember from the last episode, episode 10, this was a game I previewed heading into this previous weekend in college football, and it turned out to be a complete showout by Louisville fans in Louisville, Kentucky. Matter of fact, it was the second largest recording attendance in Louisville Stadium in Louisville history. So this is actually a historic crowd for the Louisville Cardinal, and it was Teddy Bridgewater night. They honored Teddy Bridgewater, and he is now, I believe, the 30th player that has his name and number in Louisville Stadium. So a very unique and exciting weekend for the Louisville Cardinals the Louisville Cardinals. And if you watch that game, you know that it was an offensive shutout. 52 to 40, was it 52 to 45, I believe?
Ridiculous.
Yeah, 52
That's what I know.
45 in favor of the Miami Hurricanes. Now, if you remember what I said about this game last episode, I kind of honed in and talked about Louisville struggles as of late on the offensive side of the ball in terms of turnovers, because Louisville is top of the ACC in overall offensive numbers, but what has been the killer for them these previous weeks was the turnovers. It was the killer in that Notre Dame game. It's what almost lost in that Virginia game when they had to make a late comeback. So I said the key thing for Louisville to have a chance to beat Miami was Tyler Sowell and the Louisville offense is going to have a clean game. Well, what happened? Tyler Sowell threw for 342 yards on 31 of 51 passing attempts, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions. And what was the result? They hung in with the Hurricanes the entire game. But 45 points, how do you lose? Well, I'll break it down to you. You're facing the Miami Hurricanes. You're facing Cam Ward. You're facing a Mario Cristobal offense that is literally number one on multiple NCAA categories. They are statistically the best offense in college football. So it's not that Louisville played a bad game by any means. It's just that they were completely overwhelmed by an offense that is so dominant by Cam Ward, who continued to put up Heisman numbers on a week-in, week-out basis. Now, this was the interesting thing. Louisville's defense on paper heading into the season was predicted to be one of the top in the ACC. However, it's been a little underwhelming. Miami, on the other hand, their defense is just completely out of whack. And their defense is the reason that there continues to be question marks raised about this Miami Hurricanes team, because they are 7-0. However, if Cam Ward doesn't have a Heisman game every week, they probably won't win. That Virginia Tech game, they won because a Hail Mary, and I'm putting Hail Mary in quotations because it was very controversial. If that wasn't taken away and Miami loses, California had Miami on ropes through 2.5 quarters, but if it wasn't for that late game comeback Miami, they lose that game. if Miami's offense didn't show up against the Cardinals, they would have been waxed. So it's just that's the confusing me about Miami. They are one bad offensive game away from losing and ruining their undefeated season. But we're not here to talk about the future. We're here to talk about what happened in the past, especially what happened during that Miami and Louisville game. And, we saw those numbers. Like I said, 314 passing yards. Isaac Brown led Louisville in rushing yards. He had a really good game on the run. We saw Ja'Cory Brooks, who I previewed in the last episode. He had I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes here. Ja'Cory Brooks had 6 receptions, 107 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So he was very active and involved in the game. But I want to talk about what happened on Miami's side, especially with Cam Ward. Like I said, he had another Heisman game. 319 yards. He had 4 touchdowns. The 2 top receivers, Xavier Respreto and Sam Brown Jr., both had 100 yards each and a receiving touchdown. Cam Ward split the ball evenly. He got all of his Miami receivers involved in the game. But the key turnaround in this game was late when it was a very controversial call, but Cam Ward got sacked. He got hit, and the ball was originally ruled a fumble when Antonio Watts picked up the ball and returned it for a touchdown. But after further review, the call on the field was overturned. It turns out Cam Ward was down before he dropped the ball, and that is what ultimately sealed the win for the Miami Hurricanes as they went down and held on to a gutsy win in Louisville. But you want to talk about another gutsy and scrappy game? Andrew, how did the Tennessee Volunteers manage to take down Alabama once again, the second time in a row on Tennessee's home turf?
So to put it into these sentences right here, cigars were lit and goalposts came down as thousands of fans celebrated number 11 ranked Tennessee's 24-17 victory over the 7th-ranked Alabama Crimson Tide, coming off a very gutsy, sneaky, close win against the Gamecocks. Now, Chris Brazell II made a diving 16-yard touchdown catch from Nico Amaliva. I'm not going to say that last name again. You heard it once. You're not going to say it again. Midway through the 4th quarter to give the Volunteer defense a 21-17 lead to work with. Now, Dylan Sampson. This is a guy I want to highlight for the Volunteers. Rushed for 139 yards and 2 touchdowns for the Volunteers. Now, this victory alone keeps Tennessee in the hunt for a college football playoff spot and a potential SEC championship. Now, this is what Tennessee coach Josh Heupel had to say. He said, that's how they played all year. How they played tonight kept us in the ball game when offensively we were a little bit off, which to his credit they were. Now, Samson, like I said, he's rushed for at least 100 yards in all but one game this season, and his 17 touchdowns, ranked 2nd in all of FBS. And if you want to know who's first, that's Michael Myers from Boise State. Now, Samson, he really sparked it, and that's what Coach Heupel really want to hone in during the press conference. And he even quoted it this way: "What a night on Rocky Top, and what a night it was." Now, the Crimson Tide, following this loss, they really had their work cut out for them for the rest of the season. Quarterback Jalen Milroe, he really struggled, connecting just 25 of 45 passes for 239 yards, a touchdown, and 2 very critical interceptions. And Alabama rushed for just 89 yards compared to Tennessee's 214. Now, you got to look inward first and make sure that everything you're doing is right. And that's the message that Kalen DeBoer preach the players in the locker room following the loss. Anyone you sense has any type of questioning, and you got to make sure you bring them with you. That was the message to the locker room. Now, Milroe, after the game, this is very, very interesting. He said, I got to take full ownership of the loss. When it comes to communication up front, communication to the guys around, I got to do better because lack of communication is what led to the 2 interceptions. Now, trailing 21-17, Alabama took over possession on its own 30 with 2:25 left in regulation. And an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on a wide-open receiver, Kendrick Law, stemmed the Crimson Tide's drive and allowed Tennessee to stretch the lead to 7 with the field goal on its next possession. Tennessee then overcame They overcame 3 turnovers in the first half and trailed 7-0 at halftime. Alabama was up 7-0 at halftime. And then Tennessee's quarterback lit the fire with a 55-yard pass to Dante Thornton in the third quarter and the scoring pass to Brazil in the fourth. Now, the Volunteers grabbed, like I said, a 14-10 lead, which was their first of the game midway through the third with 1 minute left. And then Sampson barreled in front from 3 yards for Tennessee's quarterback before he connected to that 55-yard pass. Now, the takeaway. This is my big takeaway to the game. Alabama, the Crimson Tide. Let's be honest, guys. They haven't lost twice before the end of October since 2007, which was Nick Saban's first year, and they went on to lose 5 games. I think they finished 7-5 that year, and trying to recover from that will be tough because they've got to host number 19 Missouri and number 8 LSU back-to-back weeks. For Tennessee, Nico took a step forward in his growth process after overcoming his early struggles to compete 2 key passes in that second half. So I saw a lot of resiliency from this Tennessee team, and they have a bye week. No, I'm sorry. They actually host Kentucky this upcoming Saturday and then have a bye week next Saturday. So get a win against Kentucky, take a rest, evaluate what you've got in front of you. And Tennessee, don't be surprised if you see them in the SEC Championship. This is the second time that they took down Alabama in Knoxville in front of the checkered stadium at Neyland Stadium. Now, Chase, before we move on, let's just say that the potential game of the year did not really live up to all the hype people thought. Texas, they thought they were the big, bag, meaty team. The newcomers of the SEC thinking they could just run away with the Southeastern Conference. But the Bulldogs proved that they still might be, no pun intended, the top dogs. I'll let you lead off, Chase. What went on in the Lone Star State? That's what it's called, yeah.
Though the game between the number 5 Bulldogs traveling to Austin, Texas to face the number 1 ranked Texas Longhorns, though it didn't live up to exactly, I would say, the expectations that people had without the game, don't think it wasn't entertaining because my golly wasn't entertaining.
In a completely different way, too.
And heading into this game, Texas was favored. Everybody saw Texas as the top dogs of the SEC in their first year at the SEC. But the main question was that Texas hasn't really faced that true competition yet, while Georgia has. But the reason why fans are so low on Georgia heading to this game is because they're secondary. We saw them get cooked against Alabama. Now, though they played fine against Auburn, it's Auburn. Auburn is one of the bomb teams in the SEC. But then they play Mississippi State, who's also a bomb team in the SEC, and their secondary just looked lazy and lackluster. So I had a lot of question marks around Georgia and how they were going to fare on the road against a rowdy Texas crowd who's looking for a marquee win to officially establish themselves as the top dogs of the SEC.
Not to mention that stadium holds over 100,000. That's the atmosphere they were going in last Saturday.
Exactly. And the game started very feisty on defensively for both teams, forcing turnover after turnover. We saw Carson Beck throw an interception. We saw Quinn Ewers get sacked by Everett. He lost the ball. And then Ewers also threw an interception. But then this is where chaos ensued within the Georgia Bulldogs, where though Carson Beck had an early turnover, he was able to overcome that turnover and get that offense rolling a little bit. Sure. However, for Texas, Quinn Ewers was not able to do the same for the Longhorns, and Georgia started to capitalize on the turnovers they were forcing from Quinn Ewers, which resulted in Georgia holding a 23-0 lead over the Texas Longhorns heading into the break. And then in the second half, especially the third quarter, where Texas scored 15 points to bring them back in the game. But there was one key moment that not only changed the game for the time being and really put the Longhorns back in, but it sparked some major controversy, not just within this game, but of all of college football. Andrew, can you break that down for us? What shook the college football world and potentially might have a rule change because of what happened?
So if you're one of those pansies that decide to, put on your little dress and go to one of those weddings that you're invited to, let me catch you up on what happened. During that third quarter, Longhorns defensive back Jaheed Barron picked off a pass thrown by Carson Beck and ran it to Georgia's 10-yard line. The play was called back, though, because Barron was penalized for defensive pass interference. Now, if you go look at the replay for starters, it's a horrible call. No one's disregarding that. The flag should never have been thrown. But, things like that happen. Toughen up, Texas fans. But the Texas fans did not toughen up. They were actually the exact opposite of happy with the call, and they began to throw debris like bottles and cans all over the field. Now, this caused the game to be paused for the trash to be picked up, which gave the officials an opportunity to huddle together and review the flag. The officials then decided to overturn the penalty, and the Longhorns scored their second touchdown of the game after receiving the ball. So, although Georgia fans, and especially Kirby Smart, were upset with what happened in this odd moment, the SEC doubled down on the fact that debris should not have been thrown on the field, and it seems that Texas will likely be fined for their fans' actions. But Smart in particular was pissed about the call. That was the most animated I have seen Kirby Smart pointing at the sideline official like he was about to go Jason Bourne on him, hunt him down, and kidnap his family. So he said in the press conference that Texas fans tried to rob us by throwing the debris on the field to stop the game so that the officials could discuss a penalty. But in the end, the Longhorns touchdown didn't matter because Georgia went on to score another touchdown on the next drive to solidify their 30-15 lead. But I think here's the key components that go into this. Yes, technically what people were confused about is they were saying, oh, you can't pick up the flag if you've already announced it. Diving into the rule books, yes, you can technically. Officials are allowed at any moment to pick up a flag before the next play is snapped. So don't be upset at the officials for picking up the flag because nothing about that was against the rules because the next play wasn't set in motion. What you Georgia fans and us college football fans need to be upset about are the Texas fans for throwing objects onto the field, buying the officials more time. Because let's be honest, though it was a bad call, if the Texas fans never threw debris on the field, the next play would have been snapped and the call would have never been overturned. That's what what us people need to be upset about. And I got to give credit. Steve Sarkisian handled that perfectly. He ran over to the student section, had his hands up, and pleaded for them to stop. So don't be mad at Steve Sarkisian. He knew what they were doing was wrong, and he took initiative to stop it. But like you said, Chase, the controversial thing about that is just like the Oregon and Ohio State ending, this second half shine light on a major hole in the NCAA rule system. And Chase, you said it right when we were talking about it a couple days ago. This calls for a discussion between the association that penalties should always be reviewable.
And you're exactly right, Andrew. You hit the nail on the head on all the points here. And before we move on to this upcoming college football, I just want to point out the interesting quarterback situation that's happening in Texas because we saw Quinn Ewers' first half struggles, which actually led for Arch Manning to come into the game where he threw 6 passes, completed 3 of them, just for the end of the first half. But coming out of halftime, we saw Quinn Ewers come right back in. He finished the rest of the game. I want to say it's interesting. Steve Sarkisian, after the game, said that Georgia is holding the standard for college football right now for the past couple of years, honestly. And their standard is the type of standard that every team is chasing after. And he pointed to the fact that their team was able to compete with Georgia that second half because Texas won the second half 15-7. Arch Manning has looked great in his time with Texas while Quinn Ewers has come back from injury. But Quinn Ewers still didn't have too bad of a game. He had 211 yards. 25 for 43. He had 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and that fumble. I think it would be smart for Texas to continue to start Quinn Ewers and let down the road, let him continue to recover from his injury. And because Texas still has some games on their schedule that if they win, it will turn their attention, the college football world's attention to Texas as a dog team, the SEC. And who knows, this could be another rematch that we see in the SEC championship, but only time will tell. But we got to move on to this upcoming week of college football that I've heard a lot of people say that there's not a lot of great matchups this upcoming week, but I completely disagree. There is a lot of matchups this week that I am most intrigued about, and we are going to get into that. Andrew, I'm going to let you go first. What is one game this upcoming week you want to turn attention to?
So, when College GameDay was announced, my brother and I, meaning Chase, we all thought that it was going to MetLife Stadium for a Notre Dame and Navy that has a lot of anticipation around it, and not a lot of people would have predicted. I know that wasn't on your bingo card at the start of the season, but as a matter of fact, and I think rightfully so, it is going to the home of the Indiana Hoosiers, because the Indiana Hoosiers, they're not just winning college football games. They are destroying everything in its path. Now, granted, Maryland and Nebraska are fringe bowl teams at best, and those aren't the two best wins so far, but who cares? No one has come closer than 2 touchdowns of the Hoosiers in a special run to kick off this new Kirk Signetti, I think it's how you say his name, from James Madison. If you don't know him, Google him, because all he does is win. Now, it gets a Washington team that's been shaky away from home. The Huskies 0-2 in true road games. They lost the game, played down the road on the other side of Seattle against Washington State in the Apple Cup early this year. Now, it still has road games at Penn State and Oregon to deal with, along with a home game next week against USC. The UCLA game is gettable, but it still needs 2 wins to be bowl eligible. So, before I talk about Indiana, because, spoiler alert, I think Indiana's going to win this game. Let me talk about why Washington still has a chance to win this game. Indiana is more than just one star at the moment, but quarterback Curtis Rourke has been fantastic. The Ohio transfer turned out to be the perfect leader for this attack, but for those who don't know, he is out of this game with a thumb injury. That means backup Taven Jackson, though he is dangerous and he has starting experience, he's going to have to take full reign. Now, he has been good in his limited time this year, but the main man is out. And then there's the other part of this that keeps getting lost. And I don't mean to kind of burst Indiana's bubble, but again, it's not like Indiana has ripped through teams like Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon. They have played subpar Big Ten teams. And yes, this is the same argument that has been used to boost up the idea that Nebraska could pull off the upset, and Indiana proved them wrong with a 56-7 win. But Washington, they're rested after it's 2 weeks off. The lines are strong enough to hold, but it's going to be getting very, very testy in Indiana. But like I said, I think Indiana is going to win this game, and here's why. Jackson has a ton of upside. He threw 5 picks and just 2 touchdown passes in his limited time last season, but this is his 3rd year in the program, and he should be able to handle the moment just fine. The Hoosier defense should pick up the slack if there are any issues, and it's not giving up anything against the run, and it's generating a ton of sacks and big plays behind the line. The other big problem for Washington is that it's not clean enough. There are too many penalties, too many misfires on 3rd downs, too many special teams breakdowns. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens if Indiana starts to get pushed a little bit. But, Washington, they're not going to be able to crank up big numbers on the ground. Will Rogers, he'll hit like about 65% of his passes, and he might get like over 200 yards. And the defense should keep this within range. But Jackson, to me, he's going to be good enough. But it's really going to be the Indiana defense and their run game that's going to keep the magic going. I expect Indiana to win, but expect it to be a little more testy than what people think because of the quarterback situation. But Chase, what game are you looking forward to this Saturday?
Well, you kind of went ahead and hinted at it. Like you said, heading into this week, I was expecting for game day to turn its attention to a matchup happening in MetLife Stadium. Matter of fact, this is a historic matchup, a rivalry renewed between the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, who is ranked number 12, Is that right? Number 12, and then the number 24 ranked Navy Midshipmen. Now, the military schools, the Army and Navy, has turned a lot of college football eyes to their attention because they're both undefeated and they're both ranked. Again, setting up a potential undefeated Army and Navy matchup, which we are dreaming and praying will happen. But that's going to happen. Navy's got to get past a Notre Dame team who's playing some really good football as of late. Now, we all know what now. Historically, if you look at the historic happenings of this rivalry, Notre Dame is completely dominating it. Notre Dame or Navy has only beaten Notre Dame one time this century or this decade and 4 times this century. And we all know what happened when Notre Dame and Navy met in Ireland just a year ago. It was a complete domination by the Fighting Irish. But Navy is a completely different football team this go around. This is their chance to prove that they can work their way back into this rivalry. But not only that they are a potential true contender for a playoff run and a team that could sneak in and be that group of 5 team that turns heads into the playoffs. Now, this is my little breakdown. This is the thing you have to pay attention to the most during this matchup. Look at Navy first. Blake Horvath is top in overall NCAA and past efficiency, but the midshipmen, this is their bread and butter. They run the football, averaging 275 rushing yards per play, which is 4th in the FBS. But it's not only what they do getting up to the field, but once they get in the red zone, do you know what their scoring efficiency is, Andrew? Once they get in the red zone?
100%. That's actually insane. That was not going to be my guess.
They are 23 for 23 on scoring chances when they get in the red zone, and 22 of the 23 times have been touchdowns. So over 90% of the time when they get in the red zone, they're going to score a touchdown. So this is going to be a huge test for this Notre Dame defense, who has been the better part of the Notre Dame team this season. Because if you look at their rankings, they are 13th in NCAA in allowing 47% of teams to score touchdowns inside the 20. So when their opponents get in the red zone, Notre Dame does a very good job at keeping their opponents out of the end zone. So that's going to be a very important key red zone matchup this upcoming Saturday. Now, Notre Dame are facing some injuries, however, because their top quarterback, Benjamin Morrison, is out for this game. They're missing a lot of key defensive tackles, which could hurt the Fighting Irish. So this sets up a good chance for Navy to pull off a top 15 upset here. Now, here's the thing about Notre Dame. We remember their opening season matchup against A&M, where their offense did not show up and their defense carried them to a tough road win in Kyle Field against the Aggies. But then what happened? They come home and they lose to Northern Illinois, an upset for the ages. But ever since then, they have won 5 straight, and they have scored an average of 30 points during this 5-game winning streak. So not only is their defense continuing to look good, but Riley Leonard in this Notre Dame offense is finally starting to wake up, and they're finally starting to put up points. So I mean, so this is a Navy team who is dominant in the red zone, going against a Notre Dame team who is dominant defensively in the red zone. And this is a really good Navy defensive team having to face a Notre Dame offense that's finally coming to life. Now, for my matchup, I really, really, really want to see Navy pull this upset. And you know what? Riley Leonard, he's had his fun on his 5-game winning streak. Though Notre Dame's offense is finally starting to come alive, I really do believe that that Navy is going to show Notre Dame what it's like to run this good old-fashioned run and pound the ball type of football. They're going to run it down Notre Dame's throats, and I think they're going to continue to be dominant in the red zone. Now, it's going to be a scrappy game. I don't see this being particularly high-scoring, but I'm going to say a 21-16 Navy win in a neutral site MetLife Stadium win. Give me the midshipmen team for the upset, and they're going to continue to keep our hopes alive for a potential undefeated Army and Navy game. Now, before we hop into our top 25 picks, there is a prime time SEC football game between the two of the top teams in the SEC. It's the LSU Tigers, who just got a gutsy overtime win against the Ole Miss Rebels, traveling to Kyle Field, a tough environment, who just obliterated the Missouri Tigers. Andrew, I'm going to let you go first. What do you expect from this tough and scrappy matchup between the LSU Tigers and the Texas A&M Aggies?
So I'm going to keep this hat on, Chase, because you just took the American patriot out of me with picking those military schools. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Why aren't you guys covering the Penn State and Ohio State game? Wait, no, that's next week.
That's next week.
Yeah.
Not this week. That is a game I can guarantee we will preview.
Just kidding. Moving right along. Now, if this isn't a college football playoff game, which it isn't, it sure looks like one. Now, the loser could still be on the run the table and go 10-2 with a little bit of luck. If LSU, the SEC championship would still be probably, by winning out. Oops, sorry. That's probably how LSU would make it. But A&M, they can't get a second SEC loss now. So this is more do or die for Mike Elko's team. Now, the Aggies don't have it too bad after this with a trip to South Carolina. Up next, followed by a trip to by New Mexico State at home and a trip to Auburn. That's all before hosting Texas, though. So, they do have a big, I don't even know what I was going to say. They have a big test at the end of the season. And now LSU gets Alabama at Florida and then Vanderbilt, who just break the top 25. So shout out to all you Commodores out there and a likely desperate Oklahoma team to close. So get ready for one of the most intense games of the weekend. Now, looking at A&M side. A&M, they have a guy. Actually, they had a lot of guys, but they got a guy, and that guy is Connor Wingman. I was very high on him during the preseason. Let me down a little bit after a rough start, especially in that Notre Dame game, but he has elevated himself to be a better pro prospect than Newmeyer, which is their backup, with the size, arm, and mobility to take his game up a few notches. He bounced back after a rocky start and injury to be almost perfect against Missouri and good enough against Mississippi State. Now, this should be a firefight, and the defense might be hitting that extra pass or two, but Newmeyer, he's going to misfire more than Wingman will because we know how A&M likes to play the two quarterback game. And then there's the ground game. LSU's attack, it's really hit or miss. We've seen it a lot this year, partially because Newmeyer doesn't run a ton, but A&M is a second in the SEC behind Tennessee on the ground. So this is still a run-heavy offense. We'll likely see that come up with manageable third down plays. But so for the matchup as a whole, this is one of those games that Texas A&M, they have the opportunity to do something massive. But then in A&M fashion, they probably won't. It has the talent and upside to match LSU punch for punch, but the difference will be on the lines. Both teams can bring the pass rush, but LSU's, they will be a bit stronger. The O-line will be come up bigger in pass protection, and this fabulous game will come down to probably a late kick. I mean, we've seen LSU prevail in so many close games after that USC loss. Like you said, Chase, we saw them prevail in a late touchdown score that brought them an overtime win against Ole Miss. LSU's Damian Ramos and Texas A&M's Randy Bond, they will play big games. But Ramos will get the last swing of the leg. Give me Texas A&M. I'm sorry. Randy Bond is what I meant to say, not Ramos. Give me A&M on a walk-off field goal in front of the 12th man, in front of 100,000 plus, baby. But Chase, what are you thinking about this LSU team? Do you agree with me on A&M's win, or do you think the Tigers will win and hold on to their top 10 spot?
I think what makes this game the most interesting is what's happening in the trenches. This is a really dominant Texas A&M defensive line going against, in my opinion, the best offensive line in the SEC with the LSU Tigers. They've done such a good job protecting Garrett Nussmeier, allowing him to do his thing. Now, this is the big thing about LSU's O-line and what they've allowed Nussmeier to do. Like I said, in my opinion, LSU has the best O-line in the league, and because of that, Garrett Nussmeier, geez, I have such a hard time pronouncing his last name, but Garrett Nussmeier has plenty of time in the pocket. And if you've been watching LSU football this year, you know that he loves to throw that deep ball. And LSU coach Brian Kelly even said at practice game, they said when Nussmeier can't connect on short and medium throws, he makes up for it on his deep ball. And his deep ball actually ranks 7th in all of college football. Now, I like you said, I agree with you said that Nussmeier's going to misfire more than Weeman will, because Nussmeier's quarterback completion percentage is actually not that great. He only completes 55% of his passes, which is a little alarming, which is why he relies so much on his deep ball, because those are the passes he actually completes the most. Remember that Ole Miss game, his deep ball is what won them the game on the first play of overtime against the Ole Miss Rebels. Now, the key for Texas A&M is they're going to have to get to Garrett Nussmeier. They cannot allow him to have time in the pocket like he has had so far this year and start attacking on those deep balls like they love to do. Now, for A&M on their offense side of the ball, Andrew, you said it, Le'Veon Moss has been a dog in the SEC with more than 96 yards himself. The A&M's rushing attack, like you said, ranked 2nd in all the SEC. However, LSU is in the top 35 on rushing defense. So this is a matchup that really goes well head-to-head. A great O-line against a great D-line. A great rushing attack against a great rushing defense. So the key to A&M, they're going to have to get to Garrett Nussmeier, and they're going to have to somehow counter this great rushing defense and continue to let Le'Veon Moss dominate on the ground. And if A&M is able to do so, they will continue to keep the pattern of defeating LSU at home, because A&M has played LSU very well at home recently. So if they're able to do that, they can continue that trend. But the question is, are they? And Andrew, I think it's going to come down to which quarterback can run the offense better. And I think Garrett Nussmeier is going to connect on that deep ball. That O-line is going to contain this Aggie pass rush. Nussmeier is going to continue to have the time in the pocket, and LSU is going to put it in to this trend, and they're walking out of Kyle Field with a W to get A&M their 2nd loss of the season. So, Andrew, I am disagreeing with you. It's going to be a night game in Kyle Field, a loud and rowdy atmosphere, but Brian Kelly and the LSU Tigers are going to walk away victorious and getting the Tigers.
Hold on, Chase. Before we get into our game picks, I'm gonna make a very important phone call and see if we can break this tiebreaker real quick.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'm very passionate about Mike Elko's Aggies, Chase, and I just want to make sure that I'm not standing alone. Yo, what's up?
You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. I didn't mean to interrupt what you were doing. We're in the middle of recording an episode, and I need you to break up. I need you to break a tiebreaker, okay?
Okay.
Between A&M and LSU, who do you think is going to win?
A&M.
A&M. Thank you so much, Jake. You heard it here. All right, Jake. You sound tired. I'll let you go, but thank you for breaking that up for us.
No problem. Peace out.
I'll see you, bro. Hey, Jake knows ball, baby. Jake knows ball. Gimme. You're gonna be on this train by yourself, Chase. Choo choo. Go back to Death Valley, baby. We like it better over here at Kyle Field, man. Give me the Aggies, man. But we'll see. It's going to be an interesting matchup.
Between me and you, I actually hope the Aggies win, because if y'all watch this podcast this year, y'all know that, well, actually all 3 of us can't stand Brian Kelly. But honestly, I think it's a toss-up. Like I said, this is a
It
very
is.
evenly matched matchup here. It's two top teams in the SEC. This could go either way. And A&M does have the advantage playing in Kyle Field. I just think Nussmeier's going to be a little too dominant for even the Aggies to contain. But again, this could go either way. We'll have to see what happens Saturday night. But Andrew, let's get into these top 25 picks, starting with number 5, Texas Longhorns, who just took a tough loss to the Georgia Bulldogs. They are traveling to America's team, a team that everybody wants to see succeed. They have been a top storyline in college football, the number 25 ranked Vanderbilt Commodores. That is a 4:15 kickoff on the SEC Network. Andrew, do you see a massive upset happening again in Nashville, Tennessee?
So it's interesting, Chase, because Vanderbilt, they have been playing great football, though they did have a scare against a group of 5 team last week at home. This is their first time in the top 25 since 2012, if my math serves me right now. And like you said, Chase, not A&M, the Longhorns, the other Texas team, looking for, I want to say, a big bounce back win, because though, like you said, Chase, they outscored Georgia in that second half, the whole game felt like a loss for Texas, because nonetheless, they did not reach expectations that the high standard that they were, the pedestal that they were putting themselves on all throughout the year heading into that matchup. Georgia still outright dominated them on that defensive front. So they really want to look for maybe a shutout defense performance, which is not easy to do, and it's not going to happen. I don't want to say home field advantage is a thing for the Commodores, because it's really not in that stadium. I guarantee you there's going to be more Texas fans there than Commodore fans. But, guys, be excited about this Vanderbilt team. You know, they play with a lot of grit and a lot of determination. And there's really a lot of this weighs on the shoulders of Diego Pava, which has been a very sleeper quarterback in the SEC this year. But I think Texas has so much fire built in them after this game. I'm gonna pick Texas. I want to say it's gonna be a blowout, but I think I'm saying like maybe let's go 16-point win for the Longhorns.
We know Vanderbilt, they beat Alabama at home, one of the best performance in school history, if not the best win. Well, definitely the best win in school history. But then they come and play Ball State, and it was a scrappy game at home, a game they actually almost lost. And if I'm Vanderbilt, I am scared to play. This is a scary time to play Steve Sarkisian and the Texas Longhorns. You know they're going to come out firing. They're going to come out angry. And I could see it being close at halftime, but I think Texas is going to come away with a 24-point win. I think Quinn Ewers is going to show the world that he should remain the Longhorn starting quarterback, and Texas is going to show the world that they are still a top dog in the SEC. It's not that Vanderbilt is a bad team. I just don't think they have what it takes to also take down the Longhorns at home. It's going to be a rowdy atmosphere. You know the fans are going to show up. However, this is just a bad week to play Longhorns. Give me Texas on the road. And I already made my prediction for this game. So, Angie, I'm going to go ahead and give it to you. In MetLife Stadium, the 12th-ranked Notre Dame Fighting Irish playing the 24th-ranked Navy Midshipmen.
This is a new generation of military football, Chase, because we've got quarterbacks airing the ball out this year, man. Navy, the big difference that I've noticed between Navy and Army, especially in the quarterback play, that they still like to dominate on the run, is they've got big guys behind center. Blake Horvath, like you said, Chase, 888 passing yards with 10 touchdowns, but look what he does on the run game. It's almost just as dominant, if not better, but he's very careful with the ball. This is going to be a very defensive game. I do agree with you on that. I'm not expecting a lot of firepower because these are both teams that are dominated by the defensive end. Call me crazy, Chase. This score just kind of came to me. As much as I want to see an undefeated Navy and Army matchup, because keep in mind,
American flag on, man.
I understand that, but I'm also a realist at the same time. Keep in mind, Army's also got to go through the Fighting Irish team if they want to remain undefeated as well. I don't think Navy scores a touchdown this game. I think that high-powered offense.
once they run into a top 15 team with top 10 potential like Notre Dame, who Marcus Freeman has drawn the perfect defensive game plan following this game, 10-3 is the final score. Give me the Fighting Irish in a very, very defensive ballgame.
No, I'm sorry. Saying that Navy's going to be out of the end zone completely, they're 23 for 23 in the red zone. And though they haven't played the best competition, they've still played good competition. It hasn't been bad competition. I'm sorry. And
they beat Memphis. I'll give you that. They beat Memphis.
I'm sorry. Saying they're going to be kept on completely, in my opinion, is pretty crazy. But moving on, we got a primetime ACC game on the ACC network, an 8 o'clock kickoff between Kevin Jennings and the best rushing offense in the ACC, the 22-ranked SMU Mustangs, traveling on the road to play really good 6-1 Malik Murphy Duke Blue Devils. SMU, their rushing attack has been absolutely insane. But Duke, on their side of the ball, this has been a team that while Malik Murphy has looked good, their defense has been the outstanding part of this Blue Devils offense. We know they have Manny Diaz. He is a defensive-minded guy. Look at his time at Penn State as defense coordinator and look at the good defense teams they had. So this is a really good offensive team traveling on the road to play a really good defensive team. SMU is just such a hard team to stop. Kevin Jennings, he's doing enough at quarterback through the air to keep this offense running efficiently, but it's really on the ground, especially what running back Bradford Smith has done running the football. This is an overwhelming offense that I think it's going to be a really, really close game, but I think that rushing attack for SMU is going to give the edge. Give me the Mustangs on the road.
I like that pick, Chase. I like RJ Maryland for SMU as well. Coming off a big last 2 weeks, I really want to say. And these are teams, SMU, very well rested. Duke's going to have a long week because they played Friday, unfortunately beating our Seminoles. But I do like the way Malik Murphy and that defense has come together. It's going to be a tough game on the road for SMU, but they've got way too much offensive weapons. Give me SMU as well.
All right, well, we have a 3:30 SEC kickoff. The number 21 ranked Missouri Tigers traveling to play on the road against the 50th ranked Alabama Crimson Tide. After their loss to Tennessee, man, Alabama is hanging on to the top 15 by a thread. Now, this is a Missouri team whose offensive line got destroyed by the Texas A&M Aggies, and we know what Alabama can do when they blitz a football. That can be a scary pass attack, and Brady Cook, he's tired of being destroyed. He's had a whole Saturday full of getting wrecked left and right. And that could potentially happen again against the Alabama Crimson Tide. I think this is going to all rely on Jalen Milroe and limiting those mistakes. We know how good Jalen Milroe can be when he's sharp for the football, but when he starts turning over the ball, that's when this offense gets really lackluster. I would like to see Alabama rebound. I think Kenny DeBoer is going to get this Crimson Tide in the right mindset. They're playing at home. I am not too high on Brady Cook and the Missouri Tiger offense. I think it's going to be a close game, but Alabama ends up winning by 13.
I agree, Chase. I'm not too high on this Missouri team. We just saw them sneak away with a really bad Auburn football team. It's interesting to say because I think, in my opinion, what's going to rely on this game is Missouri offensively needs to get Nate Noel more involved in the backfield, maybe on the wheel routes, hit him for some checkdowns because he's got a lot of speed and he's got over 500 rush yards last week against Auburn. Bama, if they don't get communication things figured out, which is a big miscue for them in Neyland Stadium, I think they lose this game. But I think it is going to be that bounce back game that Jalen Milroe is looking for. It's going to be testy once again for Bama. Give me Bama in a close one.
All right, AG, I'm going to let you hit the nail on this one first. This is a big 3:30 kickoff on CBS, a battle of two really good Big Ten teams, the 20th ranked Illinois Fighting Illini, who continues to show themselves as a surprise contender in the Big Ten, and the new number 1 ranked Oregon Ducks, who just had a big win at home against against the Purdue Boilermakers on the road, completely obliterated them. But Andrew, I'm gonna let you go first. What do you like to see in this matchup?
I'm a big fan of Luke Altmaier. You take a look at this Illinois team. They just knocked off Michigan at home for the first time since 2007. or I think don't hold me to that statement, but they're making a push for the Big Ten championship in ways people did not expect. And that, like you said, Chase, you said it over and over and over again, and it still holds true. One of the best secondaries in all of college football, and we saw it in their only loss of Penn State. If their offense just wasn't clicking in that game, but defensively they were sound. Look at this Oregon team. Like you said, Dylan Gabriel, when he was transferred over there in the offseason, people thought they were going to be a powerhouse on offense. You just could not contain. But they were contained in those first couple weeks leading up to the LSU game. I think now, after that Purdue game, they've really got this offensive on a high mark. I think they keep rolling. Illinois secondary is going to be exposed a little bit. I still like this Illini team, but the Ducks are going to be too much to handle. They're going to be flying. Ducks don't fly, but they will today or this weekend. Give me the Ducks.
Now, ESPN actually has Oregon as 22-point favorites and gives Illinois an 8% chance to win this game, which is really, really disrespectful.
Disrespectful.
The thing is, Dylan Gabriel, though he only has 4 interceptions on the year, we know that he is prone to making mistakes. And that was especially evident in that game earlier against Michigan State, where he did make a couple of early mistakes. So I think if Dylan Gabriel, but we also know facing a really good Ohio State offense, Dylan Gabriel looked fantastic. He did on the road against Purdue. I think he's going to come at home. I think he's going to continue to have a good offensive showing, even against a really good secondary, if not the best secondary in the Big Ten. Illinois, they're going to give themselves a chance. They're going to give themselves a fine chance. It's going to be a really good game, but I think Oregon's going to run away and win this game by double digits. Now, This is a game we can't preview because it already happened. The 19th ranked pitcher Panthers destroyed Kyle McCord 41-13. They beat the Syracuse Orange. 5 interceptions by Kyle McCord, 2 of them pick sixes. No, 3 of them were pick sixes, excuse me. A terrible showing, but this could be a sign that the Pittsburgh Panthers are legit. But because we can't review that game, we're going to move on to another new kickoff, an SEC matchup. This is going to be a quick pick for me. The Oklahoma Sooners traveling to play the 18th ranked Ole Miss Rebels. Ole Miss, Jackson Dart said it after the LSU game. Their only path to the playoffs is they have to win out. Oklahoma just got embarrassed at home against the South Carolina Gamecocks a week ago or this past Saturday. So I do not like this Oklahoma team at all. I think it's a scary week to play Jackson Dart and the Ole Miss Rebels. Give me Lane Kiffin rebound this team. Ole Miss wins big.
2 weeks in a row, Oklahoma just got flat out embarrassed. Texas, though they were disappointing against Georgia in most parts, they're built for SEC football. Oklahoma needs to go back. Put them in the Pac-12. That's where they belong more so now. And, the defensive-minded sideline that they have a head coach that does not transpire on the field, and it's definitely not going to against a desperate Ole Miss team. Give me the Rebels.
Now, this is a very intriguing matchup as the 17th ranked Boise Broncos and Ashley Jonty is traveling to play on the road against unranked ULV. Though they're 6-1, their only loss coming to the Syracuse Orange just a couple weeks ago. And though their quarterback, of course, opted out of play because of the NIL deal. We talked about this a couple episodes ago. But their backup, Harmony Williams, has done enough to keep this Rebels offense rolling. Andrew, do we see an upstate in Las Vegas, or is Ashley Jonty continue to keep this Boise Broncos offense running?
So the Rebels we saw in that Syracuse game, the game right after they lost they had a few players step down due to NIL disputes, looked very, very solid. They have kept UNLV rolling. They got a couple of key wins as well on the road against Oregon State, a 50-point performance on the road against Utah State. So Boise State, though they have Michael Myers in the backfield, who's definitely going to get well over 2,000 rush yards this year, Boise State looking to be that group of 5 team to make the playoffs. But just like Liberty last night when they lost to KSU, the Broncos' dreams are going to be crushed. The Rebels are going to pull on the slot machine lever, and it's going to hit all 7s. Boise State and Ashton Jonty will be knocked out of the college football playoff conversation. Give me the UNLV Rebels, baby.
And I'm going to go and correct you. It is not Michael Myers. His nickname is actually the Boogeyman, according to ESPN. But
It's Michael Myers.
But Mattis Maxson and Ashton Johnson has got this team running like a well-oiled machine. Now, the interesting to keep on LV's quarterback, Williams, not only is it now he's starting at quarterback, but he is actually the one of the leading rushers for ULV with 390 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. So they have a Lamar is quarterback under center. Now, this is a very good matchup. However, I don't see enough on UNLV defensively to contain Ashton Johnson and this hot Bowie State offense. Andrew, I know you think they're going to hit that slot machine where it's going to hit 7-7-7. But Andrew, this is nothing. This is going to be nothing but a nightmare presented by the Boogeyman. Boise State doesn't win by 1 possession. They don't win by 2 possessions. They go to Las Vegas and they win this game by 3 possessions. Boise State with a big statement win at 10:30 on the road. Now, Andrew, you went ahead and previewed this game a little bit in your picks, but it is College GameDay, the Washington Huskies facing the Indiana Hoosiers. Now, Andrew, I know it's big because Curtis Rourke is out for this game, and I know their backup, he does have starting experience, and that's going to be big. And when they face Will Rogers' offense, well, Will Rogers has actually looked really sound for this Washington Huskies. However, their defense is good, but it's not great. I think, though, Rourke is going to be out, their backup – that O-line for Indiana is really good. I think it's going to create room for the running back, Justin Elson. He's really underrated in the Big Ten. It's going to create room to give him a chance to go up and have a big game. I think Indiana, it's going to be a little scrappy, but I think that home crowd is going to be big and rowdy for this College Game Day, and Indiana is going to secure a big home run for their program.
I already made my picks. I already said my thoughts. Give me the Hoosiers.
The Hoosiers. Now, this is a very intriguing game as the 11th ranked BYU Cougars, who escaped a 5-seed win just a week ago against the Oklahoma Sooners, which came because of their late touchdown win, but they are now traveling on the road to the bounce house to face the KJ Jefferson-less UFC Golden Knights. Angie, I'm going to let you take the reign first. Who do you have in this matchup?
Jake Rizloff, the quarterback for BYU. He's a Jewish man who goes to a Mormon school. This is why we love college football. This BYU team has kind of came out of the shadows in the Big 12. Not a lot of people knew how they're going to – what to anticipate from this team. Not really knowing how they're going to fare in Big 12 competition. But they have hit on all cylinders. In Oklahoma State, though they've been disappointing, they're a testy team. But look how they dismantled Arizona at home the week before. Went on the road against Baylor and got a 34-28 win. Right after dominating the at the time 13th ranked Kansas State team 38-9. This has been a team that does not need to be slept on any longer. UCF, they almost got the upset against Iowa State on the road, but they were tested. They were pushed to the limits after a last-minute touchdown was given up. They are back in the bounce house. It's going to be rowdy. I love the team that Gus is building over at UCF, but it's not going to be enough to contain what's being built in BYU. They are going to find themselves in the top 10 after LSU loses as well. Give me the BYU Cougars to remain undefeated.
Now, like I said, UCF is without KJ Jefferson, and though they had Jakari Brown playing, and UCF almost got the road win against Iowa State, don't let that fool you. Jakari Brown did not look good, throwing 2 picks, throwing less than 50% of his passes. I think being without KJ Jefferson is going to hurt UCF a lot. This BYU team is going to be a little overwhelming for them to handle, and I just can't see UCF really faring well in this one, even in the bounce house. Give me BYU big. Now we're going to move a little quick on this one. Kansas, who's been a dumpster fire. We have a rivalry game. They're playing on the road against the 16 weight Kansas State Wildcats. Y'all know how much I love Avery Johnson. I have preached how much I love him in this Kansas State offense. They're going to keep this team rolling. They're going to have Actually, I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think because this is still a Kansas team that you have to fear a little bit under the rounds of Jalen Daniels. But I think in the end, Kansas State's going to come back with a scrappy win.
Jalen Daniels, he hasn't been careful with the ball. He has a 70th QBR in the college football with 57.5. That compares not even close to, like you said, Chase, Avery Johnson. KSU is going to make a dominant, going to make their presence really felt in a dominant win in this rivalry game. Give me KSU.
Now we're going to skip over LSU and A&M because we already previewed that game and made our picks for it. And we're going to move on to, and you said at the start of the episode, us Florida State fans know what time it is. It is rivalry week, where we'll have the Brock Lynn-led Florida State Seminoles playing the best off.
Well, ladies and gents, don't really know what happened at Chase. I have a feeling maybe his laptop died, but I'm going to kind of take the reign here and talk about the Florida State Seminoles. Brock Lynn, the 5-star true freshman at backup. We saw a little bit of the 2-quarterback play for Florida State. Still a very depleted team that's been really held back by a lot of miscues and very big penalties that's taken away a big chunk of yardage. Mike Norvell, the play calling hasn't really been stellar. Lawrence Tolafili, easily our best running back. We're not utilizing him the way that we should. Chase talked about in that Miami and Louisville recap that Kim Ward still reigns as one of the most dominant, if not the most dominant, air attack quarterback in all of college football. He had a mission in mind when he came to Miami, and that was to take the U to the playoffs and potentially win the ACC conference. And Florida State, they just don't have their act together. Mike Norvell really needs to turn the table, and we really need to turn it around fast. And there's going to be no better game to do it than to get an upset win on the road in Miami. They're going to be wearing their blackout uniforms. Last time they wore their blackout uniforms against the Noles was in 2014 when they were haunted by Jan Ramsey, and we won that game. But it's a different time of setting in college football. This is not the 2014 Florida State Seminoles. This is not the 2014 Miami Hurricanes. You know how much I want to stay here and say that my Seminoles are going to go to Hard Rock Stadium and win that ball game. But Miami, they're going to continue to show that they belong in the top 10. Give me the Miami Hurricanes. Chase, you made your way down here. I think your laptop died. I said it to the people who are watching right now. Quickly, before we wrap things up, give me your pick for this game.
I hate to say it. I just don't see enough from this Florida State team offensively nor defensively that can keep up with the best offense in college football. It breaks my heart, but I have to take the Canes.
All right, guys. Sorry how that was kind of a weird way to end this episode, but thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Stay tuned with us because next week we'll have the full crew back and ready to recap all the exciting games we just previewed, and then, of course, preview OSU and Penn State because that's going to be an instant classic in the Big Ten. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Love you guys. Peace out. Enjoy your college football weekend.